Just because you're good at building houses doesn't mean you'll be good at running a business. Getting someone to build a wall frame like you can is not that hard, but you get a lot more value out of building up learning, I suppose, how to run a better business. I was just so gung-ho. I was like, right, I'm just going to do this. And I just got on with it, and I wasn't tracking my numbers or checking my profitability.
Every building owner has memories from those mistakes. They're either defining moments or learning moments.
I did this one project for someone. I didn't really have all the structure in place with a contract and things like that. And in the end, I don't really have a leg to stand on.
This is Professional Builders Secrets, the #1 podcast to help you grow your building company safely and securely. Brought to you by the Association of Professional Builders. Join us every week as we talk to industry experts and your fellow professional builders on everything you need to know to generate more leads, more sales, and higher margins while improving the building experience for your clients.
Hello, and welcome to the Professional Builders Secrets podcast, a podcast by the Association of Professional Builders for building company owners, general managers, VPs, and emerging leaders. Here we discuss all things running a professional building company, from sales processes, financials, operations, and marketing. Hello and welcome. I'm joined today by Zak Johnson, Director and Master Builder based out of Adelaide. Zak, thanks for being here today.
Great to be here, Bosco.
Well, Zak, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about who you are and what does your company do and what you specialize in?
We're based in Adelaide, South Australia, and we are a custom home builder. We specialize in sort of mid to high end extensions, additions, and large scale renovations.
How did you get started in this industry? Was this one of those roles that came to you by design? Did you land on it? What made you choose this path?
Well, yeah, it's an interesting story. Through high school, I was sort of getting into like woodworking and furniture construction. So I really liked working with my hands. And my dad was a mechanic, so he had a trade. And I remember being in the car with him once, and I said, I'm thinking about getting a trade. Should I be a mechanic like you, or should I be a carpenter? And he sort of said to me, oh, you can't be a mechanic because when I was your age, I was doing all this, but you're not doing that. And I was like, oh, well, I'm a carpenter now.
You landed on it based on a conversation with your dad, and that was the path that you took.
Yeah, 100%. So I knew I'd always do an apprenticeship, and I just sort of carpentry just looked like the path for me. I really enjoyed it, so that's the path I took.
Zak, what are your thoughts about being a skilled trade worker? Is it a lost, dying art? There's so much shortages in the labor force out there. What do you think is the solution to this shortage?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure what the solution to the shortage is, but there's definitely like volume is kicking up, and so people are more specializing in like the specific thing. So carpenters these days, they just do first fix or they just do second fix. When I was going through, I worked for a builder who sort of did it all, so I just got that big broad view of all the different things you can do as a carpenter. But I think certainly that's a dying art of learning your trade. You're sort of being pigeonholed in, I can only do this specific type of thing.
So what was it like starting out? Take me through the process. So obviously you decided to choose carpentry. Take me through the journey of, some of those earlier milestones and some of those experiences as well.
I started out sort of in a commercial environment. So I got a really different look to what you'd normally get as an apprentice, I suppose. So I started getting a really broad view of all the different things you can do. And I started working with a lot of plasterboard work and flushing and things like that. But then my interest there sort of moved. So I went away and started working for a custom home builder. And then I started learning all the other aspects of framing and roofing and cladding and things. That all really worked well, because then when I eventually sort of decided to go out on my own, I had all these multi-skills that really gave me the confidence, I suppose, to sort of roll with it.
And when did you decide to take that leap and go into business for yourself? Because it sounds like you started working for another company before you decided to go and branch out on your own.
Yeah, definitely. So when I started on my own, well, it's interesting because during my apprenticeship, I always knew that I was going to start my own business. It was just that's just what I was going to do. I didn't know when or how, but I just knew that one day I'm going to work for myself. And so then an opportunity came up, and I went with it, and I just loved it. Like I really, really enjoyed being my own boss and doing my own thing, but really just swinging from the hip. Just had no idea what I was doing. So yeah, ran into some shortage of work essentially. And then I was like, oh, well, I've got nothing else to do. So I went back and worked for someone again.
Right.
So that was like my first little look at it. And it sort of gave me a bit of a taste. And so I really wanted to do it again, but I was just sort of thinking, well, yeah, I didn't really have leads coming in. I didn't really have like a structure of a business yet. I was just sort of doing carpentry projects, and I was getting busy. So it worked that way. But then, yeah, like I said, the work dried up. So I just went back, worked for someone else. I just sort of flighted.
Right. What appealed to you about working for yourself and starting a business for yourself? Like you said something that really resonated. You said, you always knew you were going to end up having your own business. Do you credit your roots with your dad's profession as one of those reasons for wanting to be a businessman for yourself? Or did you just, was it in your blood all the way?
My dad did work for himself as a mechanic, and he was just a little business, and he wasn't he was like a sole trader. So, but I obviously looked up to him, and I used to see him when I was really younger. He'd go out, do his thing, come back, he'd do his books at night and things like that. So I saw that, and it appealed to me because, he's my dad, and I just wanted to follow in that sort of footsteps. So I haven't really thought about it consciously, but you're probably right. Like I probably saw that and I was like, oh, that's what I want to do because my dad did that. And it didn't really matter what trade I was doing, but I just wanted to go down that path.
Yeah, it's interesting because with all these conversations, it's always interesting to go back to the roots and try to find that origin story, right? And a lot of the builders I've chatted to, really their foundational aspirations came from home at the dinner table or, seeing their parents come home from work. I certainly took a lot of my entrepreneurial passions from my parents as well. So it's interesting how those memories are tucked away when we think about it. So look, you talked a little bit about getting into the business. Every building owner has made some classical mistakes. Every building owner has memories from those mistakes. They're either defining moments or learning moments. I'm just curious which, what are some of those moments that you would classify as a learning or memorable moment? So
when I started out my own, I was so excited. I was really young. I was full of drive. I was really passionate about it because every day I would get up and do the thing that I love, which was just building things, right? And to be honest, I actually feel like I dodged a few bullets because I don't really remember having any major issues go wrong. I was just so gung-ho. I was like, right, I'm just going to do this. And I just got on with it, and I wasn't tracking my numbers or checking my profitability. I was just doing it every day. It didn't really bother me. So I definitely would have made some mistakes. And there is one that I'll touch on. I did this one project for someone. I didn't really have all the structure in place with a contract and things like that. And in the end, the homeowner was just sort of making up all of these excuses around why he didn't want to pay. And then I started looking at it like, oh, I actually don't have a contract in place. I'm missing all these pieces. I don't really have a leg to stand on. So I just sort of let it go. And, that cost me a few $1,000s. So realistically, a really cheap lesson in hindsight, to learn that way. And I suppose that sort of put me on the path of surely there's a better way to do this. And I started looking into different things. But back to the question, I feel really lucky that I sort of didn't really come across any of these big mistakes that I'm hearing other builders have made. And I think it's just from my eagerness just to get in and get it done. If anything come up, I just sorted it. So I'm a real sort of just go and get it done sort of guy,
Right. So you've been known to be a master execution, not only just being a master builder. Everyone at the Association of Professional Builders calls you that. So I want to know, how did this come to life and what inspires you to put the excellence into the details? I'm sure there's a story here.
It's funny you say that. No one's nicknamed me that, or I haven't heard anyone call me that before, but I can sort of see how they get there. I just have an attitude of like, it doesn't have to be perfect, but when I learn something, I just want to implement a little bit of it or as much of it as possible. And I'm not one to sort of linger on it and try and perfect it. And then I can only do it once it's perfect. I'm just happy to just to get it done and do it. So, there's this saying that, knowledge is power, but knowledge is nothing unless you implement. So applied knowledge is where the power comes in. And that really resonates with me because I've heard that saying a lot. So for me, I'll do some of the trainings with the APB or whatever, and I'll just there's a lot of information in there. And I think, well, I'm never going to be able to process it all. What's the one thing that I can actually do? I'm just going to do that. And that's just going to roll on to other things. So I always look for at least one thing that I can do, and I just do it. And It doesn't matter if it's not right, because I can always just, oh, well, that didn't work. Let's just scrap it. Let's just do something else. But I'm a real sort of go do it sort of person.
Well, tell me a little bit about the company. So, obviously the company has grown now and you've got different people as well. What does it look like today and where have you come from? I'm really wanting to talk a little bit about that transformation. What was that crediting piece that led to that growth?
So probably over the last 3 or 4 years, the company has changed a lot. I was on the tools initially. So certainly one of the biggest changes is I'm no longer on the tools at all. And I've grown a team. We've got a couple of project managers, a full-time admin. I've got a few carpenters as well. So we've got a really good team together at the moment, which means I can focus on other parts of the business. So that's really good. And I'm no longer on site. So that was a really big hurdle for me to try and get over. And so what the business looks like today, I've come from a 1-man, 2-man show where I was doing everything. Now we've got a lot of structure in place. We've got a proper presence in a commercial building, which we've got an office now rather than the home office. So we have really moved quite quickly in hindsight. It's funny how when you're doing it, you don't really feel like it's moving that much. But when you look back, like, oh, wow, we've actually done quite a lot. So I'm really happy with where we're at the moment. And obviously more goals to tick off as well.
So, maybe we should call these episodes the Confessions of a Master Builder. Do what's your take on getting away from being on the tools? Because I've heard so many different stories, right? Some builders go, they miss it. Others go, it was the best thing for their business and their brand. What's your take on stepping away from the tools?
I talk to a lot of guys about this, and I think the key thing is your mindset, because you start a business, you're doing it all yourself. You believe that only you can do it. The business is your little baby. You need to be able to let go. And part of letting go is getting the right people in so that you can trust them, so that you can let go. But I think that's where a lot of builders and a lot of business owners in general really trip up. They just can't allow themselves to let someone else do it, and they're constantly micromanaging. I see it. I've got a lot of friends who are older generation builders, and they're still on the tools, they're still doing it themselves, and I talk to them about their mindset, and it's pretty evident that they just don't trust anyone, and so they get stuck. And so for me, it's a lot of personal growth. I think reading books, just getting your head around the concept that you don't have to do it yourself, and then once again back to that sort of just do it. It's like, okay, well, I'm just going to do it on this job. I'm just going to just hand it off and just help where I need to, but I'm really going to try and switch off and just let them do it because I trust these people. And then it works, and then you get a little bit better at it, It's like any skill. You got to keep practicing at it to get better. And its mindset is 100%. That's what it is.
Do you miss not being on the tools anymore? Do you miss that sort of lifestyle, or are you sort of enjoying where you are today?
I do miss it sometimes because it is a lot of fun being on the tools, doing things with your hands, a bit of banter on site. It is a lot of fun. But to be honest, I really enjoy the office environment, and this new role that I've sort of moved into, I get a lot of fulfillment from it, because although I'm not getting the banter on site, I've got a team who, I'm building, and I really like helping them grow from all different aspects in life, personally, professionally, all that sort of stuff. So I really get a lot of fulfillment out of that. And that really is what probably drives me the most.
Let's talk a little bit about your membership and coaching with the Association of Professional Builders. I believe you've been coached with Andy. Is that correct?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about how did you hear about them, and what got you into it, and where are you now, and what are some of the memorable experiences so far, and how has it transformed your business?
Yeah. So been with APB at a membership level for quite a long time. I remember they were just sort of hammering me with Facebook ads or whatever it was. I just remember seeing them everywhere, and I was like, oh, what are these guys about? So I started looking into it, and started having some conversations with their team, and then obviously signed up for the membership. And then I just saw their library of trainings. Once I got in the membership, they've just got all these things you can just do straight away, all this learning you can do. And so I remember this story quite well, actually. I was talking to one of their team members. It was quite a few years ago. He was saying, oh, you could try and, there's a lot of information here. It could be a bit overwhelming. You might just want to try and do one a month. First time I looked at it, I was like, oh my God, I was just like ready for it. So I was thinking to myself, I'm just going to try and do this whole library in a month and just like absolutely kill it. So I sort of get a bit excited about that sort of stuff. But yeah, so the APB membership and all their information, it's really given me like a bit of rocket fuel just to sort of, okay, I want to do these things. I got no idea how to do them, but here's a simple training that I can watch, and then I can implement something straight away. So I was just just loving it. I would just watch it at every spare moment. I would just consume as much of it as possible. So that really gave me a big boost.
Right. And what lessons are you applying to the business today? How has it, impacted the growth of your business? Most builders talk about financial awareness. Some talk about operational processes as well. And some talk about growth. Which stage did you go through to implement it into your own business?
I think the most powerful systems that APB teach is the financial management side of things. They just take it to another level, and having that sort of clarity. I'm a real sort of numbers and detail guy, so I really thrive on that sort of stuff. So digging deep and knowing all that information, it then just allows you to make other decisions so much easier, because if you're so confident with the financial side of things, it makes investing in a new software an easy decision. Will it help? Can I afford it? Yes. Okay, let's do it. Instead of being like, will it help? I'm not sure. Can I afford it? I got no idea. You just sort of walking around with a blindfold on. So certainly the financial side is I would say the number one thing that's helped me the most, for sure.
Looking you up and reading about your biography and the website, it sounds like you guys have won some awards. You've won an award as well. Tell me a little bit about these accolades. Yeah,
so I've got a real thing for awards. I really want to be highly awarded. There's a lot of authority that comes with it, but yeah. So we are a HIA member, and they do awards every year. So we've entered the last couple of years, and we've been, I suppose, we'll call it lucky enough to win quite a few. So we've just won Professional Builder of the Year. So that's more of a business award about how we run as a company. We also won Apprentice of the Year. And we also won a couple of project awards as well for a couple of internal smaller renovations that we've done that were really, really, they just come out really, really good. So I think we're at 5 at the moment, and we've only been entering the last 2 years. So we won 2 the first year and 3 the second. So I'm really excited about that. This year's award entries are going to be closing soon. So we've got about another 6 entries we're going to put in for this year. And really gunning just to be highly awarded. We get a lot of leads come in and they mention, we rang you because of your award. So it really does help.
Yeah, no, I think you're the first guest that's won such a track record of awards and also, all these different accolades. And it's interesting that you talk about the fact that the accolades can also generate leads, and, just it's a different type of credibility that most builders might say they don't have time for, but they probably haven't considered the impact too, right? So I think it's a really cool thing that you're doing. You talked a little bit about the fact that you miss the job, being on the tools and stuff, because it's that fun environment and, the world of banter. What do you love about the office environment? You now moving your career and evolving your career to being a managing director and a business owner. What do you love about the office life?
It's a really good question. It was a difficult transition to get used to it, because you sort of need to change your mindset around how you see productivity, because I used to just only see it as how many wall frames I can build, but now it's sort of how can I improve the business? But I suppose from the office, I get more of an overarching view of everything that's happening. We're obviously in constant communication with the on-site team and my project managers. So I'm pretty up to speed I get my sort of taste of just making sure I know what's going on site, because that's always a thing that the business owner wants to know. But then I don't know, I get a real kick out of looking at ways we can improve, implementing new systems, training the team, keeping them up to date with our vision and our mission and where we're trying to move the company and helping everyone grow. So I think it all stems from that.
It sounds like you've built this business to really serve you and where you're going in the next phase of your life. How did you get to that stage? How did you get to the stage where the business is now operating by design as opposed to default?
I think I still have a way to go before the business is 100% serving me. But yeah, certainly we didn't get here by accident. I do implement quite a bit, and I try to just get it done, as I've mentioned before. And I think that's the real key to sort of, the only way the business is going to change is if you just start putting the value and the time into it. Years ago, when I was sort of trying to do everything myself and I was find myself working late nights, I sort of had this epiphany that if I'm going to sit here at 9, 10 o'clock at night doing some work, what sort of work should I be doing? Should I be pricing this project so I can have a job, or should I be doing something that once it's done, I no longer have to do it at 9 o'clock at night? And so that's sort of working on the business. So researching new software that's going to make our life easier, or building new systems, or It could be a whole range of things, but it's not necessarily quoting a project or dealing with admin tasks. And that's sort of where my mindset went. It's like, if I'm going to sit here late at night, I'm going to make sure the things that I'm doing are going to make, once they're done, are going to make sure that I don't have to do this again next month or next year or something. So it was a slow progression out of that.
So as you've grown the business to where it's at today, what's next on the horizon for you? What are you focusing on? And what are you getting everyone at the company to look forward to in the coming months?
Yeah, so I've got a real obsession with systems at the moment and trying to put them in the right spot, make them look the right way, make them accessible for our team. And I'm trying to really build a systems culture. So just talking about it more, making sure everyone knows where they live and what they look like and how to use them and how to refer to them. And if we update a system, updating the team. So I'm a bit obsessive like that. So I've been focusing on that quite a bit. So that's definitely my focus at the moment when I've got the time in between all my other duties. But yeah, once again, because I'm a detail guy, I actually really enjoy it. So it's not a chore for me. Yeah, sort of a curse and a blessing.
So you're understanding why you're nicknamed the master executioner, right? I love the way you nonchalantly goes, oh yeah, I'm a bit obsessive, but basically I'm attention to detail, right? I get it. Yeah. So look, what are some of the, let's talk about the future and let's talk about, the industry. Obviously, so much is changing right now. There's headaches in the US, there's heartaches in Australia, as they say. What are some of the struggles that builders are facing today in the industry? What are some of those challenges that you're seeing in the market?
So when I talk to a lot of other builders and trade business owners and the like, the theme that I get back is that they started their business because they were really good at doing carpentry or really good at building houses, and then they're struggling with whatever they're struggling with. But I think the key thing is that they're not putting effort in to learn how to run a business, because it's a really different skill. Just because you're good at building houses doesn't mean you'll be good at running a business. And so that's the biggest reason I see there's a problem. But then people, they're not really seeking out the help to learn how to run the business. So they spent 4 years doing their apprenticeship. They spent X amount of time after that refining it and getting better and better and better, but they're not putting any effort into the business side of things. And that's where all the value comes in, because getting someone to build a wall frame like you can is not that hard, but you get a lot more value out of building up learning, I suppose, how to run a better business. And then it flows through in all aspects. So you always hear different problems, like, oh, I've got a cash flow problem, I've got this problem with this client, whatever. But if you put some effort into learning and better understanding how to run a better business, all those problems will solve themselves just by just working on this one skill that you're not putting any effort into. And it is a bit frustrating, because I think the building industry, business owners in the building industry are quite stubborn, and they just think, oh, I don't need to do that or whatever. This is the way my dad did it and this and that. And that's okay. Like, sometimes you can't help everyone, but if I can just switch the light on for some people, I know it'll improve all aspects of not only their business, but also their personal life.
Right. And it sounds like, the building industry can be quite isolating. And it's amazing that you have associations of professional builders out there having events and having memberships where people can come together and share their experiences as well. Because I would probably make the assumption that prior to the APB, you probably were a lot more isolated than where you are today as well.
100%. I know I felt this way, and I think a lot of other building business owners feel the same way. You're looking at other builders as all your competitors, and you don't want to talk to them. You don't want to tell them what's going on, because you think that, I don't know what they're thinking really. But there's so much power in networking, just talking about your problems, talking about what's happening in the industry. It could be anything, but just being open to have a chat with someone else who you might think is your competitor. But there's an abundance of work out there. Like, it's not going to be a problem. Like you talking about something or sharing a system or talking about a problem you're having, someone else might be able to just say something in a certain way that really helps you with it, so that you can go and fix that problem. And it would never have happened if you didn't talk to them. So I really think that's a real nugget for any other business owner listening to this podcast, is that don't be scared to talk to other people in your industry. Network with them. Yeah, okay, they're not going to buy your product, but it doesn't matter. Like, you're going to get a lot of value out of it, and you can build long-lasting relationships.
So if you had to give a perspective to a new builder out there, and obviously someone that's been in this game for a long time, what advice would you give to each party?
I am a big basketball fan, okay? And my idol is Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is the best basketball player in the world, right? And he had a coach. It's like, why does the best guy in the world need a coach? It's because when you're in it doing it, you can't always see the overall picture, or a third party look at it gives you a different perspective. And so my advice to anyone is, it doesn't matter how good you think you are, you can benefit from a coach or a mentor. And whether you pay for it or you find someone who's done it before, and just someone you can talk to, it doesn't really matter. But just having someone you can bounce ideas off of, just to objectively look at an issue, and not just get in the trenches with you and get all upset and angry with you about a certain problem, but just sit back and just think, how can you solve this problem? Or what have I done in the past? What perspective can I give that's going to help you see it in a certain way to help you with this problem? So to be honest, it's really just finding someone who can help, whether it's a coach, a mentor, call them whatever you want to call them, pay them or don't pay them. But I think there's so much value in that so many people are missing out on.
It's funny you mentioned Jordan. I actually watched the documentary, I think it's called The Last Dance, but they won the sixth trophy. The coach is stepping down. All the players are leaving, and at the end of the show, Michael Jordan talks about the fact that they probably had it in them to go for a seventh run and actually win a seventh trophy, but the dynamic changed, the coaching changed, everything changed, and they just left it out, on a high note, right? And one always wonders if Jordan had, a seventh run in him, right? I guess we'll never know, but at the same time, it's an interesting perspective about coaching and the reliance of building those dynamics with someone you trust, right?
100%.
How do you see the construction industry evolving today, and where are you focusing? You talked a little bit about the fact that you're obsessed with some of the systems. Are you spending more time in technology? Where are you, what does innovation look like to you today in that construction space, specifically where you are?
So yeah, technology is starting to have a big impact. And I think a lot of builders are coming around to it. Once again, I think people in our industry are quite slow to adapt to it. So they're it's taking everyone a while to catch up, which is sort of good because we have a competitive advantage because we use a lot of technology.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of how the industry is evolving, our prospects are becoming much more educated and they're asking better questions. And so it's making us have to provide better answers. And so then it's forcing us to pivot and change in how we, I suppose, go to market and what are people looking for? So what do we give them in terms of information? Design is becoming more mainstream. So as in people spending more time figuring out how to make their house beautiful and pick their selections in a more thorough way and things like that. They're not just interested in the builder's selection anymore. They want a more customized experience. At least that's from my perspective. And that's really exciting because the build quality is starting to go up. There's always going to be a place for the cookie cutter builds, but even those standards are starting to lift as construction standards lift, bringing in certain building methods, double glazing, all that sort of stuff is starting to become more mainstream, which is better because it's just a better way of building. So I really see the construction industry going in a good direction for, I suppose, the quality of build. In terms of affordability and things, that's a different conversation, but maybe we'll leave it there.
I think we may need to have you on another episode just to go over, the different changes in that area as well. What does success and happiness and balance, look like to you today? You're a family man, from what I assume, and how do you juggle being a business owner and a family man at the same time? How do you promote that balance?
Yeah, so we've got 2 young kids, so like 1 and 4, and life at the moment is extremely busy. We're just in a spot where we're obviously busy at work with a lot of stuff going on, and when I come home, it's flat out with the kids. And so success and happiness, you certainly need balance, and that's not going to happen by accident. You have to sort of plan and schedule for that sort of thing to make sure that you're sort of filling your own cup and looking after your own mental health so that you can be successful and be happy. But for me, contributing to the family and to other people, that's a big way for me to feel fulfillment, and then learning as well. So like reading books, constantly looking at different things, learning different things. To answer the question, like what does success and happiness look like to me? Constantly learning, contributing, and quality time with the family. So like booking things in and making sure that with the time we do spend together is doing something that is a lot of fun to create those memories.
Well, a bit of a curveball question to end this interview today, but it's my final question, and I'm sure we'll love to have you back again for other insights as well. But let's just say the APB invents a time machine and you go back in time. You have a choice to go back in time. where would you go back in time in your life, and what advice would you give a younger version of yourself?
Right. That's a deep question. I can't really think of the specific time, but I would go back to some time when I was in high school, in the early days of high school. And I would tell myself that, because we've all got bits and pieces of trauma or bullying or whatever the case is throughout our young adults and things. And so going back to myself before that sort of stuff happened, I would tell myself that you need to do life just as I've done it. Go through all that stuff. I wouldn't change anything. You need to go through all that stuff, because going through it is going to turn you into the person that will eventually become who you're meant to be. I really feel like you can't grow or change without going through some things to learn lessons. You can't just learn a lesson by reading a book and hearing about it. Like, you have to go through it, because then that fundamentally changes your mindset about how you think about it, and that changes your actions in future scenarios. So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily go back and tell myself to change anything. Maybe invest in Tesla earlier or something. but yeah, follow the path and just embrace it, and all the lessons you're going to learn, all the hardship you're going to go through is going to form you into the person that you need to be, so that I can be where I am right now. Because like at the moment where we are in business and in life personally, I'm really happy. I'm really content. Everything's going really, really well for us. And I'm really excited for the future and what's to come.
Really insightful, my friend, and really appreciate your honesty there as well. It's been a pleasure having you on the show, and I look forward to seeing more awards and more accolades coming your way as well in the future.
Thanks, Bosco. I really enjoyed it.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening. Remember to subscribe to Professional Builders Secrets on your favorite podcast platform and leave a review. To learn more about how the systems at the Association of Professional Builders can help you grow your building company, visit associationofprofessionalbuilders.com. See you next time.